You ever make one mistake and then realize your whole life was already falling apart before it even happened? Because that's exactly what happened to Melissa. One quiet night. One locked door left slightly open. One moment she should have walked away from. And just like that, everything changed. What started as guilt turned into obsession. What felt forbidden suddenly felt real. And the worst part? For the first time in years, she finally felt seen, but trust me, this story gets messy fast. So grab your coffee, lock in, and watch till the end. Because this situation, it spiraled harder than anybody expected. Melissa used to believe her marriage was solid. Not perfect, not movie-level romance, but stable, safe, predictable. And maybe that was the problem. Every morning felt copied and pasted from the day before. Wake up, make breakfast, smile when needed, pretend everything was okay. David worked constantly. Conference calls, business trips, emails at midnight. Even when he was home, he never really felt present. Melissa kept telling herself that adulthood was just like this. That love naturally cooled off over time. That maybe passion was something only people in Netflix dramas got to have. But deep down, she felt invisible. Like she was slowly disappearing inside her own life. Then Ethan moved back home for the semester. 19 years old, confident, too observant for his own good. The kind of guy who walked into a room with effortless energy. And from the second he came back, Melissa noticed something dangerous. He noticed her. Not in a weird way at first. Just small things. He asked how her day was. Actually listened to her answers. Remembered random details. Made jokes that caught her off guard. And honestly, after years of feeling emotionally ignored, even basic attention hit different. At first, she brushed it off. Told herself she was overthinking. But then came that night. The night everything crossed the line. Melissa had been heading toward the kitchen when she heard movement coming from Ethan's room. A low sound, almost like pain. Concerned, she pushed the door open and froze. Ethan looked up instantly. For a second, neither of them moved. The air felt heavy, charged, like something dangerous had just stepped into the room with them. Melissa knew she should leave. Seriously. Every logical thought in her brain screamed, "Girl, walk out right now." But she couldn't move, and Ethan didn't look embarrassed. He just stared at her calmly, like he already knew she wasn't going anywhere. "Didn't mean to interrupt," she whispered. He smirked slightly. Not cocky, not arrogant, just knowing. And somehow that made it worse. Melissa stepped backward first, then forward again, completely confused by herself. Her heart was going absolutely crazy. Like full drumline mode. That moment didn't explode into chaos. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, slow, dangerously emotional. The kind of moment where two people realize something they can never unrealize. Hours later, Melissa locked herself in the bathroom staring at her reflection. She barely recognized the woman in the mirror. Because guilt was one thing. But the part terrifying her most? A piece of her didn't regret it. And that realization hit like a truck. The next morning, sunlight poured through the kitchen windows like the universe was mocking her. Melissa walked downstairs trying to act normal. Loose sweater, messy bun, coffee first, emotional breakdown later. But Ethan was already there. Leaning against the counter eating cereal like nothing happened. Morning, Melissa. The way he said her name made her stomach flip. "You look different today," he added casually. She slammed the fridge shut harder than necessary. "Eat your breakfast." Ethan chuckled softly. Dang, somebody woke up spicy. Melissa tried focusing on cooking. Eggs sizzling, pan crackling, anything except the fact that Ethan had stepped closer, not touching her. Just close enough for her pulse to lose its mind. "You don't have to pretend with me," he said quietly. Her grip tightened around the spatula. It was a mistake. But even she didn't sound convinced. Ethan studied her face carefully. You keep saying that, like you're trying to convince yourself. That line hit way too hard. Melissa turned around quickly. This can't happen again. And for the first time, Ethan's expression changed. The teasing disappeared. Now he looked serious. Almost sad. Okay, he said softly. But lying to yourself isn't going to make it disappear. That sentence followed Melissa all day. Actually, all week. Because pretending became exhausting. Every dinner felt awkward. Every hallway interaction felt loaded. Every accidental glance stretched too long. And then David came home, completely unaware. He hugged Melissa, kissed her forehead, started talking about work trips and meetings. Meanwhile, Ethan stood near the staircase watching silently. Melissa felt like she was living inside a pressure cooker. At dinner, David rambled about business updates while scrolling through emails, half listening to his own conversation. Underneath the table, Ethan's foot brushed hers accidentally. Melissa nearly dropped her wine glass. David looked up. You okay? Yeah, she lied instantly. Just slipped. Ethan looked down, hiding a smirk, and Melissa hated herself for noticing. Days passed, then weeks. Melissa tried everything to create distance. She stayed longer at grocery stores, signed up for yoga, started gardening more, even spent hours wandering around the library just to avoid being home. But the harder she tried to ignore Ethan, the more impossible it became, because Ethan wasn't chasing her. That's what messed with her head the most. He wasn't begging, wasn't manipulating, wasn't forcing conversations. He just saw her, really saw her. One afternoon, Melissa folded laundry in the living room while Ethan sat nearby sketching. You don't have to keep pretending, he finally said. Melissa sighed immediately. We are not doing this. I'm not trying to start anything. Then stop talking like that. Ethan leaned back calmly. I just think you're scared of what you felt. Melissa stared at him. Because the annoying thing, he was right. And she hated that. I'm married to your father. I know. You're 19. I know that too. Then why are you acting like this? Ethan looked directly at her. Because for the first time in my life, somebody understands me too. That silence afterward felt massive. Melissa walked away before the conversation could go further. But later that night, she couldn't sleep. David was beside her, completely knocked out. Meanwhile, Melissa stared at the ceiling, feeling emotionally wrecked. Then her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. Can't sleep either? Melissa stared at the screen for nearly a minute, heart racing. Then she turned the phone over without replying. But she didn't delete the message either. And that mattered. One evening a few days later, Melissa found Ethan outside sketching in the backyard. The sunset painted everything gold. Birds chirped softly, one of those calm, cinematic moments that almost felt fake. Ethan handed her the notebook. Most of the pages showed landscapes. City streets, rainy sidewalks, quiet parks. But then Melissa turned to the final drawing, and her breath caught. It was her, standing by the kitchen window. Looking tired, lost, lonely. The drawing was painfully accurate. You drew this? She asked quietly. Ethan nodded. You looked sad. Nobody had said something that honest to her in years. Melissa swallowed hard. I should go inside. As she turned away, Ethan gently touched her wrist. Not aggressively, not possessively, just enough to stop her. For one terrifying second, Melissa almost leaned toward him, almost. Then reality crashed back. No, she whispered. I can't. Ethan stepped back immediately. Okay, no anger, no guilt trip, no pressure, and somehow, that made it even harder. That night, Melissa sat by the bedroom window staring into the darkness. Because the real problem wasn't Ethan. The real problem was what he awakened inside her. The version of herself she thought had disappeared years ago. The woman who wanted more than routines and silence. The woman who wanted passion, attention, connection, life. And once those feelings woke up, they refused to go back to sleep. The next morning, David mentioned another work trip. Denver this time, 3 days minimum. Melissa nodded quietly. David finally looked up from his tablet. You okay? Tears filled her eyes instantly, because no one had understood her that clearly in years. You deserve to feel seen, Ethan continued softly. That's not something you should feel guilty for. Melissa shook her head. This whole thing is messed up. Maybe, Ethan admitted. But feelings don't disappear just because they're inconvenient. That line stayed with her the entire walk home. Back at the house, they stood near the front door in complete silence. The tension between them felt unreal, like one wrong move could destroy everything. Then Ethan leaned closer slightly. Not enough to touch, just enough for Melissa to feel his breath. If things were different, he started. Melissa closed her eyes. They're not. Ethan nodded slowly, then walked away. And honestly, watching him leave hurt more than she expected. That's when Melissa finally realized the truth. This was never really about temptation. It was about emptiness. Keep living the same, safe life that slowly made her feel numb, or risk, destroying everything for feelings she didn't even fully understand. And trust me, the decision she makes next, yeah, nobody walks away from it unchanged. If this story had you hooked, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Because honestly, do you think Melissa was wrong? Or do you think loneliness can push people into situations they never imagined?